All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Doing that thing you do, breaking my heart into a million pieces, like you always do. And you don't mean to be cruel. You never even knew about the heartache I've been going through. Well, I try to forget you, girl, but it's just so hard to do. Every time you do that thing you do.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next, 2 hours, I will be your host and your guide as together we'll cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ in St. Catharines, Ontario, streaming us at classic1220.ca. Exonation, tonight on the program, we welcome investigative author and political commentator Donald Jeffries, a man known for pulling back the curtain on the darker corners of the American history. From the assassination of JFK to the attacks on 9/11 to the Oklahoma City bombing and beyond, Jeffries has spent decades exposing the cracks in the official narratives. He's the author of the eye-opening book, Hidden History, an exposé of modern crimes, conspiracies, and cover-ups in American politics. Buckle up, folks, because the truths you've been told may only be half of the story. Joining me now is Donald Jeffries. And Donald, welcome back to the X Zone. Great talking to you again.
No, thanks for having me on.
Don, let me ask you, what first led you down the path of researching America's hidden history?
Well, it was a JFK assassination. That's still my wheelhouse issue. It's my baby, and I've never gone away from it. I was 7 when JFK was assassinated, but it had a huge impact on me because I was from a Catholic family, and they were all devastated. So that's one of my earliest memories is the saturation coverage of that. And hearing doubts, my father never believed Oswald did it, so I was kind of saturated in that. And as a teenager, I just became interested. I heard about all these books that were out there by people like Mark Lane, Russian Judgment. And so I just started devouring everything I could on the subject. And Mark Lane became my hero. I saw him interviewed and really admired his civil libertarianism. And I gravitated to that. And that's what I based my own politics on. So I heard he had an organization called Citizens Committee of Inquiry with chapters all over the country. So I volunteered and I ended up heading the chapter in my local area. And it was near his office. So I got to meet him. And that was a heady experience for me because he was a genuine hero of mine, so one of my fondest memories. And from there, I was a very far left winger at that point. Really radical left winger, card carrying member of the ACLU, and anti-war activist, advocating for prisoner rights and things like that. And obviously, for good pay for workers and all that stuff. So eventually, it led me to other issues. I started realizing the JFK assassination didn't happen in a vacuum. That wasn't just a momentary lapse, of corruption, that this was something that was a standard operating procedure. And so I started looking into all these other things. Eventually, I became right-wing in a lot of my beliefs, and especially during the Clinton years, which I called Conspiracy Central in my book, Hidden History. And I started investigating all those things. I was the first one to launch an independent investigation into what I believe was the assassination of John F. Kennedy Jr., and that's one of the highlights, I think, of Hidden History. And also my latest book, American Memory Hall, I delve even deeper into the assassination of JFK Jr., as well as a lot of the other subjects. So eventually I just came to at this point where I am now. I write regularly on Substack. I've had 10 books published. I developed a pretty good following over on Substack. And I basically at this point believe that that we should not accept anything. If our government or our media is talking about reporting whatever there is reporting, we know they're lying to us. So that's what I tell people to begin at that point. That whatever it is they're telling you, you know it's not the truth. And then you have to try to figure out if you can figure out what the truth is.
Don, in your view, how has mainstream media contributed to covering up or distorting key historical events and facts?
Well, it would be impossible for the conspirators to succeed if it wasn't for the mainstream media. Riley, come on, my dog is interfering with my wires here. Sorry.
Okay.
Go lay down. It's like a storm outside. Uh, without the cooperation of the media, that's what Jim Garrison said when he was investigating the JFK assassination. It could never have happened without the cooperation of the media. And Riley, go. She keeps. I know she's going to end up cutting us off here. I can't get her out. But and again, they operate the way Tass and Proudman did at the height of the Soviet Union. Just the average Soviet citizen understood they were being lied to. The average American doesn't understand. They think CNN and CBS and the New York Times, they think that they're part of a free press, and they're obviously not. And as I've said, I could never have written almost nothing that I've written. Would I have been able to write if we had a free press and we had actually investigative journalists? Because some of these things I'm trying to investigate with no resources really. I get a hold of some of these people, but most of the time they're hard to get a hold of. They don't want to talk about anything. But if I had the resources of a major television network or a big newspaper or something, a magazine,
right,
then obviously you could do a lot more. Our media won't do that.
I'm sorry, our media won't want to. Sure.
They won't do that. They don't allow any investigative journalism.
Let me ask you this. What is your take on President Trump?
Well, that's a good question. I catch it from all angles there. I have a unique take on him. I call myself a Trump agnostic. We're the smallest minority group in the world. And everybody either hates Trump or loves him. It's the nature of his personality. So the people who love Trump think I hate him, and the people that hate Trump think I love him. So I basically, I guess the best way to sum it up is that I like most of his rhetoric, and I dislike most of what he actually does. So I think that's the best way to put it is that he says a lot of great stuff.
He says
what actually happens is usually not so great. So, but I'm always willing to give him a chance. I think this administration looks better on paper in terms of, I love, I'm a Kennedy fanboy, so I was very happy he picked RFK Jr. I think whatever good comes out of this administration will start with RFK Jr. I like Tulsi Gabbard, and those two alone make for a pretty good, it's a pretty good start. So we'll see what happens. And I thought Doge was a good idea with Elon Musk, but I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't know if nobody's been prosecuted. And so it's nice the fraud was revealed, but we'll see what happens beyond there. But Trump's greatest contribution may be in bringing the roaches out into the light, where he's, even no matter what he is, if he's legitimate or not, his rhetoric is succeeding in showing the average person how corrupt all these people and institutions are. And I think that's a good thing.
But there's a lot of people who believe that he is more corrupt than anyone else in any institution.
Yeah, and I think that's ridiculous. I've argued with a lot of people because I think he may have the most obnoxious personality we've seen in office, and he can certainly be overbearing and maddening sometimes the way he phrases things. But I do body counts for most of these people. In my book, obviously the Clinton body count leads them all, but you go back to Roosevelt, FDR had a body count. LBJ had a huge body count. The Bushes had a body count. Obama had a body count. Trump doesn't have a body count that I've seen.
That we see.
If it's hidden really well, if it's there. But I understand he was born to a very wealthy family and became even wealthier. And he grew up in New York, so it's hard to believe he didn't come into contact with shady people in the construction business in New York. And I'm sure he did. So, he's not my ideal idea of any kind of white at night, riding it on a white horse.
Certainly,
but
yeah.
I think that if you look, and I got in an argument about this on a show a couple weeks ago about this, but I mean, if you compare him just to like Obama and Bush, certainly W. Bush, both Bushes, and Clinton, the more recent presidents, so he doesn't have any. All the scandals that he's kind of featured in that we know of were fake ones, like Russiagate, and the lawfare prosecutions of him, which are ridiculous. Like I said, I personally think Trump's part of it. I think he's an actor. I call it the Trumpenstein Project. People get confused by it, but people can go to my Substack, and I've written many articles on the Trumpenstein Project, where I think he's an actor hired to play a role and basically to kill the third party movement, to kill independent, because he has done that. We will, there are many, many millions of populists out there. You saw that with Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016 too, and they could possibly have joined forces under a unifying figure. But that was hardly Trump. And so now everybody, because of Trump, everybody is locked into these two disastrous parties, Tweedledum and Tweedledee. And the Uniparty is stronger than ever because of that. So, and I said, when Trump was elected the first time, whatever he is or whoever he is, he's our last hope. I don't know what comes after Trump, but I know this for what I don't know if he's going to accomplish anything. We'll see. But actually, I mean, he will tell you he accomplished things, but he tells you that the first time as well. And his people will. And the other side will say, as I said, millions of people hate him for things he never did. And millions of people love him for things he never did. So he's a unique individual. And people don't know what to think of me when I'm talking about it, but I'm just telling you the truth. I want anyone to succeed.
Certainly.
I'd love to see him solve the immigration problem, which needs to be solved. I'd love to see him build the infrastructure, which hadn't been touched for 60 years. I'd love to see him bring home all the troops that are nonsensically in over 150 countries around the world. Mm-hmm. But everything, he'll talk about peace and say some great stuff, and then he just bombs Yemen again.
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly. And then he causes rhetoric wherever he goes. For example, all the talk about Canada being the 51st state, and then taking over Greenland, and then Netanyahu, you get rid of the people in the Giza Plateau, send them off to Arabia, and I'll take it over and turn it into a Trump land.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I think that he doesn't realize what he's saying and what the implication of what he says as the President of the United States carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, or he's playing a part. Like I said, it's because he says so many outrageous things that a lot of times, again, I think at the very least, he would be a master troll. He loves to troll people. Yeah. And so that's why you have to pretty much discard everything he says. Because just since he's been president, he's tried out a lot of great ideas. He talked about getting rid of tax on Social Security, which obviously they should do.
Don, I hate to do this to you, but I've got to take a break. Please stand by. Let's come back and continue talking about President Trump and other things. Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Donald Jeffries. His website is, let me see, donaldjeffries.substack.com, right?
Yeah, that's my Substack, yeah.
Okay. We'll be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, just down the street from our number one anchor radio station, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM. That stream is on classic1220.ca.
Anybody here seen my old friend Abraham? Can you tell me where he's gone? He freed a lot of people, but it seemed good they die young. You know, I just looked around and he's gone. Anybody here seen my old friend John? I just looked around and he's gone.
Exonation, Donald Jeffries is my special guest of this hour. And Donald, just to finish off with President Trump, you know, when he started his 51st state rhetoric, calling our former prime minister the governor of Canada, and then with the tariffs, and then going after Greenland, causing rhetoric there, pulling it of this organization, that organization, and whenever he signed an executive order, he had to make a big show out of it. Didn't he talk about lowering the costs for the American consumers, that they'd have more money in their pockets, prices would go down? Mind you, the price of eggs did go down. But it seems that all the major political promises that he made that pertain to the individual have never been kept. A lot more people are unemployed. And yet it continues, allowing Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, to my God, what was it, 20% of high-ranking generals and admirals gone. He got rid of the top people at the Pentagon when he was there. It seems that what Trump wants are a bunch of henchmen that agree with whatever he says, that glorify him, bend down in front of him on one knee and kiss his ring at every opportunity that they have. And the fact that he doesn't abide by the laws, and he's not sure what his right is or what his obligations are under the Constitution, that sends a very scary message, I am sure, to many Americans.
Yeah, well, certainly it does. But again, I mean, I don't know. Maybe people have argued that. Is it possible that Trump is what he appears to be at face value? Just an incredibly immature, unbelievably, with the ego, almost the size ego, almost we've never seen before.
Yeah.
The likes of which we haven't seen. I guess it's possible. I think it's a little too Hollywoodish for me, and I don't know that.
I agree with you 100%. It is very Hollywoodish.
Yeah. So I think that, again, I believe that he was created as a character. He's playing a part because he is so outlandish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's what happens is that what he says and does, the people that love him they like his brash style, and they love the fact that the powerful people that hate him are so bad and so awful that they just love no matter what he says about it. They call him fake news or saying, get out of here. They love that, even though, regardless of why he's saying it.
Right.
And so, and I still do when he tells some CNN reporter off, it's hilarious, even though I know it's theater. But the other side is trained to hate anything he says. I've compared Trump to Emmanuel Goldstein, who was the opposition leader in 1984. And you remember the 2 minutes hate. Now we have 24/7 hate for Trump.
Yes.
But in 1984, the people would get together and throw popcorn at the screens, and when they played Goldstein and go crazy with their 2 minute hate. And I think that's happening with millions of people whenever they see him come on their TV screen. But it's a 24/7 hate. I see it in my family, and I see it. The Trump derangement syndrome is a very real thing. And it's ruined a lot of people. A lot of people that were good people from the JFK research community, and I struggle to maintain relationships with them now because they think of me as a Trump supporter. I mean, again, I support what he does. It's good.
But isn't that your right to support anyone that you want to?
Sure,
Isn't that one of the rights that you have? Just like, freedom of the press, freedom of religion, and all the other constitutional rights that you're guaranteed. And yet, the president, in his infinite wisdom, and I'm being sarcastic with that one, is going against his own constitution and breaking the law, making up the rules as they go along. And in fact, I heard one of the Supreme Court justices, when asked, what would happen if the Supreme Court came down with a decision, which they have, and he doesn't comply. And they said, well, what are we supposed to do? He's the president. He makes the laws. He breaks the laws. What's that?
Unfortunately, again, I write a lot about judicial review. I think I'm the only person in America that does. Thomas Jefferson was warned us about it when it was because that's how long we've had judicial review, since
Right.
John Marshall, the first Supreme Court justice. And we're supposed to have a system of checks and balances and three equal branches of the government,
Yep.
separate, equal. And we don't. And we haven't since the early days of the Republic, because John Marshall usurped powers under there. The founders never intended for the Supreme Court to be the arbiter of all things constitutional, to interpret everything. And even more so, the judicial reviews become even more abused, as you see it now, with Trump getting in arguments with these mostly awful federal judges. So many people call America a democracy. They're not a democracy. They're supposed to be a constitutional republic, but they're not that either. We're neither one. We're an oligarchy or a plutocracy by any definition. But however you want to say, a democracy is not something where one unelected official can overturn the will of millions of people. And that has happened for a long time in America. Back in the 80s, early 90s, a very different California overwhelmingly passed Proposition 187, which would have sensibly solved the illegal immigration crisis then, when it was manageable. The idea then was to very reasonably deny benefits to anyone who wasn't here, couldn't prove they were here legally.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. Any sane country would do that. So naturally, many millions of people voted, passed overwhelmingly. So what happened? In a democracy, it's law.
Yeah.
In a constitutional republic, it should still be. But with whatever we have under the power of judicial review, it goes right to an unelected federal judge. And these federal judges, it doesn't matter who appoints them. Trump has appointed some ones that go against him too. Almost none of them are any good. They all instinctively go against whatever's in the interest of the people.
Oh, no.
And so what do there? The guys throw it out. So what was the point of having a referendum?
Yeah.
We've had other referendums to legalize marijuana and things like that. Judges are thrown out. So there's no way around it. And that's what you're seeing now in America is a battle between the two branches of the government that have power. Because Trump is becoming an imperial president, as most of the presidents have been since Lincoln. Most of them have been. And like Roosevelt, FDR, they talk about Trump's executive orders. Roosevelt transformed the government. I mean, tons and tons of executive orders creating all these alphabet agencies that had no, place under the Constitution. And people think of him as a great hero. But so whatever Trump is trying to do, he's not being allowed to. Because like when he wanted to, that's why I said when he started out this time, I said, well, he's great. He's listening to me. So I said before, you do what you didn't do the first time. So, he signed a lot of executive orders, which are very good. The banning birthright citizenship, which is really stupid.
Yep.
It's not in the Constitution. It makes no sense. And that would solve it. But what happened? Federal judges already said it's unconstitutional, and they're going to do that about anything he does that's good. So he's trying, if he was sincere, he would be. And then what happens? Because we have a third branch of the government, the legislative branch, which should be the most receptive to the will of the people, because we can theoretically turn over one part of the House anyhow every 2 years, the House of Representatives. So we never do, because we re-elect 96% of them, which is a higher rate of return to office than the Russian Politburo had under the height of the Soviet Union. So people ought to be Americans should be ashamed of that, but they don't even know. They don't know anything. But so when what's happening now with the battle between Trump and various federal judges, maybe the Supreme Court, Congress is sitting on its hands. They do that all the time. They haven't. And look at all the foreign escapades we've been in since World War II. The last time they declared war, which is their role under the Constitution, was World War II. They just sit back and let presidents bomb countries, occupy countries, commit huge numbers of troops like they did in Korea and Vietnam.
That was horrible.
For protracted wars, and they never declared war.
Yeah.
And so they have abrogated their responsibility. So you have one really weak sister, one really weak branch of those three branches in the legislative. And that's the problem. So Trump, theoretically, by having both houses of Congress, he's got the Senate and the House, Republican leadership, should be able to get something done. But he knows he can't. Because, first of all, there's only a handful of real MAGA-type Republicans there. And most of them are still rhinos. And they're going to disagree with they're not going to go, they're going to vote against him. He knows that, I suspect. And so he's trying to govern by executive order. I don't think you can govern by executive order. FDR did. But, FDR also had, a press that was really friendly to him, largely. And we were we were in desperate circumstances in the Great Depression, so he had a lot more opportunity. But Trump obviously doesn't have a friendly press, and
Oh,
he has
I
nobody.
don't. I think Fox is very friendly towards him. After all, Murdoch owns Fox, and
Well,
Murdoch,
yes, yes, you're right,
Murdoch's
He
in the
does-
office with him more times than enough.
He does have Fox. Yes, Fox is, but I suspect Fox wouldn't be friendly with him if some of his more radical, like for instance, he's proposed a lot of great things with taxes. He discussed not having no income tax at all for people making under $150,000 a year.
Yeah.
I don't think Fox News would like that. And he's even talked about abolishing the income tax altogether and getting rid of the IRS, which would be even better. But he says these things and you never hear about him again. He never does them. So
he's got great ideas. I agree with you 100%. However, for example, he talks a good talk, but he keeps changing his mind. Tariffs one day of 145%, and then the next day, well, we're working on a deal with China. China says, no, we're not. Nobody's talking to us. And then you've got questionable actions. Was there really an assassination attempt on his life in Pennsylvania? We never hear about that anymore. There's a lot of things that should still be in front of us in the news, and it's gone. It's forgotten. No, oh, wait a minute. It's like the old thing, squirrel. Oh, next idea. Let's reopen Alcatraz. Squirrel, let's do something else. It's very hard for anybody outside of the United States to look inside and say, what the hell are you doing?
Well, exactly. And that, again, I think that's part of where I say I can't believe his personality is real. I think it's scripted because, for instance, the whole Canada annexing. First of all, what sense does it? Why this talk about Canada? That was never part of his campaign.
All right, stand by, my friend. Stand by. I hate to do this to you, but I really appreciate you coming on and talking about these issues, and I wish you much success. Exonation, Donald Jeffries is our guest, and Donald and I will be back on the other side of this break. And if you'd like to find out more about Donald, visit Donald Jeffries at Substack.com. There's three sides to every story, Exonation. His side, her side, and the truth. And that's what we try to do here on the X-Zone, Monday through Friday from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
It's been a year, Daddy. I really, really miss you. Mommy says we're safe now in a beautiful place called heaven.
Oh, thinking about our younger years.
We have your favorite dinner tonight.
There was only you and me.
I ate it all
We were
up,
young and wild and free.
even though I don't like carrots.
Now nothing can take you away from me.
I learned how to swim this summer.
We've been down that road before.
I can even open my eyes
That's over now.
when I'm underwater.
You keep me coming back for more.
Can't you see me?
Baby, you're all that I want. And you're lying.
Explanation, that is DJ Sammy, and it's called Heaven, 9/11. It's a 9/11 tribute. Donald Jeffries is our special guest this hour. Exonation, www.donaldjeffries.substack.com. We were talking about President Trump and his statements about Canada, the 51st state. I personally believe that he just didn't like the prime minister at the time. And, it could have been said in a joke. He saw the reaction of the prime minister and said, I can have some fun here. But it went way too far. It's affecting the country's tourism. It's affecting how Canadians feel about Americans. It's hurting trade, not only now with Canada, Mexico, but worldwide. Doesn't he realize that wait a second, hold on. If he's an actor, he's just sticking to the script. I would love to know who wrote the script.
Well, I think they're the same people that, that's the question, is who's really behind everything. And everybody has their little favorite they like to say, but somebody clearly is. I mean, somebody, I use this line all the time. James Forrestal was Harry Truman's Secretary of Defense, and he was also a very early and very passionate critic of Israel. He said, "This is really stupid. You can't do that." And somebody pushed him out of a window at the Bethesda Naval Hospital, and they claimed he killed himself. But there's a high-ranking official that died that way, and one of his good friends was Joe McCarthy. And in my work, especially American Memory Hole, I've done everything I could to restore McCarthy's reputation. He's been treated terribly in Israeli by historians. I think he was a hero. But Forrestal told McCarthy one time, he said, McCarthy, if there wasn't this giant conspiracy, once in a while they'd make a mistake in our favor. And I use that line all the time. There's nothing random about any of this. Whereas, as FDR said, nothing happens by accident in politics. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. So I don't know who's when. And in my book, Hidden History and Crimes and Cover-Ups in American Politics, 1776, 1963, another book, I have tons and tons of quotes from world leaders going way back to Benjamin Disraeli in England, and all the way up to even people like Bill Clinton. And it's all the same thing, that there are powers behind the scenes that are really running things. I don't even know if they know for sure who it is. So that somebody's manipulating things. Somebody is, and they know, like when it comes time for something like the Epstein files, if they all seem to know. Well, okay, we got to hesitate on this. Well, why do you have to hesitate on this? There's something hovering above that is making you hesitate. Just like we saw Virginia Giuffre, very courageous woman who died. They claimed she killed herself, which is ridiculous. I wrote a long article in Substack about it recently, and but the public kind of winks, just as they did with Epstein. I don't think there's a person in America that believes Epstein killed himself, except the people that officially investigated it. They concluded he did. Same thing here is that everybody knows that Virginia Giuffre was knocked off. She said she would never kill herself. So there's somebody there, and that's the gist of what I write about all the time. I do randomness, and it gets into, I think, I look at this as a spiritual battle. I think that we're all creatures of God, and I think we're engaged in a spiritual battle, and the people that are opponents want you to believe that you're nothing but a random tiny speck in an endless universe, and they can barely see you on a, they'll put you like you are here, and you can't. What do you mean? To try to emphasize how irrelevant you are. Look at all this giant world universe out there, and you're just a nothing. And I think it's to minimize God and the fact that you're a special creature,
right?
That was created by a creator. And so I think that what Forrestal said was very relevant. And so I think when you look at something like, if you just analyze these things, like Trump, he started talking about Canada. Yeah, he may be trolling people because he didn't like Trudeau, but it's at the very least, I have some friends in Canada. I do a show with them a lot of times too, and we had one after the recent election, and we talked about how Trump, or as I call him, Trumpenstein, was pretty much responsible for the guy you got up there now,
Mark Carney.
He's probably worse than him. It's because I think he unified. Canadians, a lot of Canadians were able to unify. We're going to show Trump. That's stupid Trump.
Yeah.
We're not going to become a 51st state.
That's very true.
Look at the surface of it. Why would he want Canada to be a state? Because I know you're there, but I'm pretty sure if you remained one country and became a state, I'm pretty sure it would be a blue state. I'm pretty sure it would vote liberal. So I don't think, if Trump is supposed to be on the other side, why would you possibly want to do that? Because then you have to recalibrate the electoral college votes, and Canada would probably get the most of anybody, them in California. So what would, again, but nobody, the people that worship Trump, they worship everything he does. So nobody says, well, Trump, that makes no sense. Why would you want to incorporate a group of people who are probably going to vote against you and your party all the time? So I don't understand that at all. I don't understand the talk about Greenland. I don't understand the Panama Canal. All that came out of nowhere right before he was inaugurated. He never talked about any of that stuff in the campaign. And I think people just sat there scratching their heads. But again, the people that love Trump love everything he says, because it sets off, it triggers people with TDS, and they love seeing people with TDS get upset, and they don't care what Trump has said. Doesn't matter how stupid it is or anything. They don't even have to agree with it. They just love, and at this point, because we can't seem to get anything done here for the benefit of the people, that may be all that we can hope for. Maybe is to be entertained.
Let me ask you: do you think those two assassination attempts that were one in one in Florida on the golf course, and the most notable one was the one in Pennsylvania? Do you think that they were legitimate assassination attempts, or were they staged?
Well, there's certainly a lot of questions. I don't think I don't too much to question about the one in the golf course. It really never got to that
Yeah.
stage, and it was supposedly somewhere. But the one in Butler, Pennsylvania, yeah, that was. And again, it shows you the power of TDS because after it happened, or whatever happened, uh, a friend of mine, real liberal, who's never agreed with, he thinks I'm completely nuts, like a lot of people do, and he certainly hates Trump. He's a diehard Democrat.
Right.
He texts me and says, "Well, I hope you're going to talk about this fake assassination." And then I said, "Wow." I think I texted back, "Finally, you found something you thought was fake." And you saw Joy Reid, Keith Olbermann. These are the people that want to prosecute somebody for questioning Sandy Hook or Boston bombing or any of the school shootings. They want to throw you in jail for that, but they're doing the exact same thing. So, and then you had the Trump people, of course, saying that he was saved by God, and this was, you can't question it and all that. So it's interesting how but that's the way both sides look at all these things, and why I think they're both worthless because they have no consistent principles. There's a lot to question there, but I don't know that someone died, and I don't want to I don't want to say that was fake or anything, but Trump's certainly his ear healed very quickly, but the most important thing to consider is that you had this guy walking around, the alleged shooter, carrying a rifle, and you had witnesses alerting police to him climbing up the side of the building, and police still didn't do anything. His Secret Service didn't do anything. After he was shot, they propped him up with his front completely exposed so he could be shot again. At the very least, if I was conducting that, I'm not going to say I think it was or anything. I would say, well, we need to have an investigation. Let's question the Secret Service and show the pictures and saying, okay, what are you doing here? Is this what your training tells you to do when your target has been hit? Instead of covering him completely and escorting him quickly out of there, you push him up or allow himself to push up and rise up with his fist pumping, with his front completely exposed, like Lee Harvey Oswald. Is that what you're trained to do? So,
There were a lot of
it's never been-
similarities. There were a lot of similarities between what happened in Pennsylvania and the JFK assassination.
Right. Well, the main one is the complete stand down of the Secret Service.
Exactly.
So, but this is the problem: is you have millions of people believe the Trump assassination was staged, but they might have believed that anyhow because again they hate Trump so much they didn't want him to be this hero that the right wing media depicted him as, that he persevered and jumped up triumphantly and all that. So they weren't going to accept that regardless. But the other side is they don't really want too many questions asked about it because there is an element there that doesn't make much sense. The bullet. I mean, there's the picture of the bullet that was caught in midair. I don't know if there has ever been a photograph of a bullet caught, and I didn't know you could do that. I didn't think it was possible.
There is that technology with the ultra high speed cameras that can actually do that. Yeah.
So you have these things, and the guy that took that picture is the exact same guy who took the iconic photo of George W. Bush being whispered to in his ear when he was reading the book of My Pet Goat on 9/11. So kind of a wild coincidence that the same photographer would take two iconic photos like that. So it should be investigated. To my knowledge, it's not been investigated at all. I wrote a little bit about it to the extent of whatever I can find, and I do find it amazing that both alleged assassins happened to appear in BlackRock commercials when they were young. I don't know what the odds of that are, but they've got to be astronomical.
They are.
So that's, I think obviously there's a lot there to question, and but people, they're going to base it on their feelings about Trump. If they hate Trump, and the millions of people do, then they want to believe this is a charade. Nobody would shoot Trump because everybody that hates him is, I guess, upstanding or something. And the people that love Trump want to believe that he's this great hero and that he survived, two assassinations.
Two assassinations. All right, Don, please stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. A lot of questions that have gone unanswered. A lot of geopolitical upset in the world. The stock market doesn't know which way to go, up or down. Will we ever find out who is behind the play called The White House, The West Wing, version 2.0? We can only hope. If you'd like to find out more about Don Jeffries, visit his Substack page at www.donaldjeffries.substack.com. And we'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, my special guest, Donald Jeffries, as we consider just trying to make sense of what is going on in this world. And here's a very, very interesting fact. UFO sightings over the last month are down 72%. Where have all the UFOs gone? We'll be back on the other side of this break, so whatever you do, don't go away. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone.
It's been a year, Daddy. I really, really miss you. Mommy says you're safe now in a beautiful place called heaven.
Oh, thinking about our younger years.
We have your favorite dinner tonight.
Welcome back, everyone. Don Jeffries is our special guest this hour. www.donaldjeffries.substack.com. As I was saying to you off air, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's great. It's great having you with us to present another side to this dog and pony show that we call Trumpism. So thanks very much, Don, and you have an open invitation anytime you'd like to come on. Just let us know. We'll make sure it happens.
No, my pleasure. Anytime you want me.
One question before we get on, because I would like to talk to you about the Kennedy papers that were released. What do you think will happen during the midterm elections?
Oh, that's a good question. What will happen in the midterm elections? I mean, typically, the party out of power gains seats. That didn't happen under Biden in his midterm elections.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect it will, but I don't know. There's a lot. Trump has, I think, increased his support. So it depends on how much he's able to accomplish. And I don't know if anything they will let him accomplish or what he really wants to accomplish. So I think that at this point, our country is just more divided than we've ever been, way more divided than we were in the Civil War. And it's pretty much split down the middle. It's very close.
Do you think that... I'm sorry.
No, and I said it's all based on Trump, too. He's the lightning rod. He is the divider.
In your opinion, is the United States of America heading for a constitutional crisis?
For what crisis? I'm sorry.
A constitutional crisis.
Oh, right. Well, it's ironic, because the left is talking about Trump and the Constitution, and I think there's very little evidence that today's left, supports the Constitution or wants it.
Mm-hmm.
They certainly would like to scrap the Bill of Rights. We know they don't believe in that. Trump, to what degree Trump believes in it, I don't know either. Because he's a big free speech supporter unless it's Israel, and he wants to. They just had some legislation they were able to quash just in time that could have somebody could have gotten up to 20 years in jail
Wow.
for criticizing, Israel on college campuses.
Hmm.
So this is a problem we have. For somebody like me, I'm a free speech purist. There's really nowhere to go. I mean, the Republicans generally are better on free speech because the Democrats want to censor you on a whole host of anything, all woke subjects. But the Republicans are really, really awful with the Zionism stuff. They're just completely betrothed to it. So,
Besides the deep pockets of Elon Musk, do you think there's anything behind the scenes that could shed some light on what the role of Elon Musk really is?
yeah, Elon Musk is another enigma because he's, certainly, and I get mistaken. And again, so that just everything he's done since he suddenly talked up freedom of speech, I've generally supported, but I know his history.
Hmm.
I know he's, at the very least, he's incredibly weird. I know his mother was, I think, is a practicing witch, maybe. I don't know. And, Musk, he dressed up as Baphomet
Yeah.
wearing an upside down cross. And there's pictures of him there.
And,
So
and don't forget
I don't know.
his mother was Canadian.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
if he's our greatest African American or not. 'Cause everybody, but he's, it's hard to. All I can do is judge by what he's done, but I'm
Yep.
also aware that he has gotten paid lots. His companies have received lucrative largesse themselves, so he really should. If he was when he was working on Doge, he should have set an example and gotten rid of anything that he was receiving from government. But generally speaking, again, as an old leftist, I applaud transparency, and I think sunshine's the best disinfection. So I thought it was great what they were doing, and I thought people getting apoplectic about it and just not and refusing to believe the government was. I mean, I've argued with people that were former friends. So you really this is a surprise to you. So you think the government isn't corrupt? Do you think that this fraud isn't going on? Why does this surprise you?
Yeah.
But but Musk himself, I don't know. So I mean, right before the Doge thing, I was very critical of him because he threw a hissy fit over the H-1B visa word, and so did Vivek Ramaswamy. Now Vivek Ramaswamy, I liked a lot, and I had a vested interest because when he was interviewed by Alex Jones, my son and I noticed he was sitting in front of a bookshelf, and in the back of the bookshelf, my book Hidden History was on the bookshelf.
Fascinating.
So I thought, wow. I said, wow, Vivek. So I said, now how do I not going to like that guy?
Exactly.
And he said a lot of good things, but as soon as him and Elon did this double team, where they just went out nuts about, and Vivek's disappeared now.
Yeah.
When he basically attacked American workers and said, our culture was bad, which it is, but not for the reasons he said necessarily, but he, said how much we need these visa workers, and so did Elon Musk. And I thought, this is not what MAGA supports, but again, Trump has always straddled the line with visa workers. He talked about the first term, it gets some great stuff about getting rid of them, ending it. He never ended it.
Hmm.
He hired more visa workers than ever for his own resorts and everything. So this is the problem. So Musk, I love what he said about and free speech, and my shadow ban, because I'm shadow banned everywhere. My shadow ban has eased up some since Musk took over. It's not as bad. I can get followers now, so follow me at Don Jeffries on X. But and they don't do what they used to do, where I'd suddenly lose 1,000 followers one day, or people would tell me I followed you like 8 times, and they keep unfollowing me. So that's the way these shadow bans work. But Musk has generally gotten better in that regard. I don't know if he's just upset about all the attacks on Tesla, and that's why he's kind of backing off maybe quicker than he thought. And I don't know what the future of Doge is either. So basically, the constitutional crisis, I think, could, if you call it a constitutional crisis, I think that would have happened or could have happened if Trump tries to get any of these big ideas of his past, assuming that he believes in any of them enough to do it. And that would be like abolishing the IRS, or ending income taxes, or doing something like, really prosecuting people for the fraud that you're seeing. If he audited the Federal Reserve or something and saw all the, obvious stuff that must be there, or even the Pentagon, he talked about auditing the Pentagon. If these things are done, yeah, that's going to be a constitutional crisis, because you saw what happened with the U.S. aid,
Yes.
where just that, I mean, the people went nuts here. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember, telling people on social media because they were just weeping and going crazy over these poor government workers. And I said, look, you know how many hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Americans in private industry have been outsourced and laid off and replaced by foreign visa workers and cheaper
Mm-hmm.
labor, and so the CEOs could get bigger year-end bonuses over the last several decades. I never heard anyone in the country, massive protests against that and going crazy. This is terrible, not like you did over the government workers. So, and I think most of us know
Yeah.
that I've known a lot of government workers, and we understand that you could get rid of the vast majority of government workers, and no one would, nothing would change.
Something I've
Because
noticed. Something I've noticed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, my friend. Something I've noticed is that organizations like Black Lives Matter don't exist anymore.
Yeah, well, well, I don't know if they don't exist, but again, I think these organizations, I think to the degree, for instance, most people don't know that Black Lives Matter, I think, is 17% black. Just so most of them are not black, but the people that run these outfits, I think it's whether it's George Soros or whoever, they turn these things on and off like a spigot because when the most incredible thing about Trump's the second election, is that there have been almost no protests in the streets like there were the first time. I thought people would be going nuts.
Oh, wait a minute.
really
We're getting media reports and reports from different organizations, grassroots organizations, that there are protests right across the United States.
Well, yeah,
against
yes,
Trump, yeah.
you do have them. More recently,
Yeah.
you've had some. But I'm talking about when he first got in, like the last time when he got in, you had the pussy hats out in the streets instantly. Not my
Okay.
president, all that stuff. This took a couple months, and then you do have the protests, and they're definitely a lot of them are
Yeah.
paid and stuff, and you have people from the right that infiltrate them, and a lot of also are they get grouped together with the anti-Elon protests, or the people that want to firebomb Teslas and stuff. So there's again, those are all people with TDS. They don't even know why they're there. They can't articulate what they hate. They just hate Trump's personality, which is at the heart of TDS. They can't quantify what they hate about the guy. But in terms of whether, I mean, they speak in platitudes like, Trump, he's trampling on the Constitution, he's a dictator, all this stuff. And again, he's really, I don't know what he's done in terms of trampling on the Constitution. I mean, certainly we've had every constitution going back to, every president going back to Abraham Lincoln, most of them have done things to circumvent the Constitution. And certainly Roosevelt did many times. And we had, our recent presidents as well. I mean, just that, when you had things like, I give, examples like Bill Clinton, killing all those women and children and American citizens at Waco.
Yes, that was awful.
Armored tanks and using poisonous gas that was banned for usage in warfare under the Geneva Convention. If that wasn't an impeachable offense, I don't know what is. And you had Obama bombed and killed a wedding party in Yemen. He also droned an American citizen that had not been even charged with the crime, and then killed a 16-year-old son for good measure and bragged about it.
Don, I hate to do this, but I've got 1 minute left before I have to say so long to you. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Deeply appreciated. I have to get you back on because I wanted to talk to you about the JFK assassination. I want to get into depth on the Oklahoma City bombing. And I wanted to know your take on the slew of JFK documents that had been released. So if you would be able to, I'll get my producer to send you some dates, get you back on. And once again, thanks for everything and continued success because, in my opinion, we need people like you who actually check into things and who are not afraid to go against the administration like so many members of the media are. So thank you so much for joining us. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet here in the X Zone.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir. X Zone Nation, Donald Jeffries joined us this hour and shared with us a lot of information and gave us a different side of the coin to look at. Don's work has been challenged, but he comes up with facts and an alternative way of looking at it, especially for people who have been able to sit down and drink a lot of the lemonade or the Kool-Aid that President Trump likes to doil out in his dog and pony shows. Once again, his website is donaldjeffries.substack.com. I'll be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues with hour number 2 from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away. And of course, you're listening to us streaming around the world on your hometown radio, classic1220.ca.